Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast, number 398, recorded live August 8th, 2018. It is 8/8/18. There's some numerological significance to that, I am sure. I'm Todd, he's Shane, I'm messing with my camera, he can't mess with his camera.
And just to save people that are really confused right now, it's podcast 399. So I don't know if you just want to start over and redo the intro, or if you just want to power through it. But
What number did I say?
398.
Yeah, let's see. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast number 399. Yes, 399. We are one short of 400. This one was recorded live Wednesday, August 8th, 2018. So we're 8/8/18. I'm sure that's a lucky number for the Chinese or something, or I don't know. But it seems significant with all the eights and the 1/1. As always, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff here. You can get links to all the things we talk about at toddclint.com/podcast 399. So don't worry about scribbling notes in your car or anything like that. Just when you get a chance, toddclint.com, podcast 399.
So I'm Shane. Hi, I'm down here. If you're watching the video, you'll see that we're having some technical difficulties. So I feel like I'm way down here, even though I'm right there. It's very awkward. So it'll be a good day.
The video, Shane and I were lamenting before we started, the video part of this kicks our butt, and the audio part, honestly, we get our butts kicked from many different angles every week. And the software that we use to broadcast this, XSplit, we don't use during the week at all. Like the amount of time that XSplit is open on my computer starts about 15 minutes before this podcast starts and ends about 30 seconds after it's over, and I never touch it. And every week when I fire it up, nothing that worked the week before works. It is the darndest thing.
I think Madonna had a song about this being touched for the very first time. I don't know.
Well, I will say using XSplit is nearly as painful. But we've got it wrangled now mostly. Shane can't see my video. The chat room might not be able to hear his audio. Who knows? I can't even begin to figure it out. Before we go any further, and before we just drive all of the listeners away, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Syskit. They make the purveyors of many fine pieces of software. This week, I want to bring all of your guys' attention to the fact that Syskit Insights has gotten a new version in the last week or so. This is a tool that you can use to keep an eye on your farm and look through logs and check out performance and all that kind of stuff. As always, you can go to syskit.com, or if you're on my blog looking for the links to all this, there'll be links to that. They are also the only people that I've ever let advertise on my blog, so you can click that link as well. Syskit Insights is a great tool for keeping an eye on your performance of your on-prem farm. And in the new version, they add some stuff to monitor the user profile service and search. Both are two integral parts of any good SharePoint farm experience, and both of them are a touch fussy from time to time. So this is a good addition. So check that out. They got a free trial, and once you fall in love with it, you will find that it is reasonably priced. I think you should buy it. And thanks to Syskit.
And I feel like this is one of those episodes where I hear about your blog about 812 times because they're already on like 807. So yes. 5 more to go.
Yes, I will be talking more about my blog. That is good foreshadowing. Good storytelling technique.
Thanks.
I like that.
Toby taught me well.
So on to topics this week. We spent an inordinate amount of time fighting the video, so our topics are kind of all over the board. One of them that I wanted to mention was something I saw on Twitter last week, because nothing but good stuff on Twitter. But this one is from Chrissy Lemaire. She is a SQL MVP or PowerShell MVP or both. I don't know. The MVP program's gotten all crazy in the last 2 or 3 months. But this is a GitHub PowerShell script that she linked out last week that allows you to copy lists in SharePoint with PowerShell. So it is SP Replicator, but again, it's on her GitHub repository. On GitHub, she is Potato Quality with 2 E's at the end instead of a Y. So, but again, just go to the show notes. But this is a handy one because this is a piece of functionality that I find myself wanting all the time. And when she posted this, I'm like, oh, thank God. I just need to remember this for the next time I need to replicate a list for tests and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So things like this, right? Because I mean, I don't manage a SharePoint farm day to day anymore. I don't ever think about stuff like this, but I can tell you that like through the YouTube and Twitter comments and things, I've gotten lots of questions in this ballpark. And so I'm always pointing people, well, you take this video over here and piece it together with this video, yeah, this blog post, and that's how you build the solution. So be interesting to see, kind of go through her code to see how she worked through and solved all of these a bunch of little quirks, right, with kind of pulling SharePoint data from point A to point B. So
Yeah, and I haven't used it yet. I need to do that. But it does a bunch of different things. So it will go from SharePoint to SharePoint. It will go from SharePoint to SQL. So export a list from SharePoint into SQL. Of course, that's only ever any good if you can go from SQL to SharePoint, which you can. And then you can go from SharePoint to a CSV file, which again is only ever any good if you can go from CSV to SharePoint, and you can. So it's like all those different combinations. So
yeah, the CSV seems to be when it comes up the most, right? Because people, they just like their Excel data, and CSV is, don't ever try to create an Excel file on the fly. That's a pain in the butt. But make a CSV and open that in Excel, same thing.
Yeah, well, and so the Excel thing's interesting, and I don't think I have it in my notes here, but I was doing some test stuff, for a customer last week, and I needed a bunch of bogus data. I needed just a ton of files, and I needed some of those files to have specific things in them. I was testing retention and, all that kind of stuff. And struggled a little bit finding a good tool for that, but I did find something that worked for that. But to create Excel files and Word files with PowerShell, you need to have Excel or Word installed on the box because they use that. And so these kind of tools, we think about running them on the SharePoint server, though Chrissy's tool uses CSOM, so that's not an issue. But this one, so I was able to generate a bunch of those. I should blog the thing that I did and put that out there because that comes up all the time too.
Yeah, well, you should have whined to me about that problem because I think I had PowerShell scripts to do the thing you're describing. So.
Yeah, in the chat room, Dan Christian is talking about how he likes XML files. I like XML files, but XML files are a devil to work with in PowerShell. I have just not had good luck with that. I can edit simple XML files easily enough in PowerShell, but that's about the extent of my my skill there. So painful.
I'm with you. XML, that JSON stuff that we still haven't figured out what that is, right? Same type of thing. Those structured files, they're annoying.
Yeah, and with XML, like it seems like the stuff I want to do is not that tough, but it all is like, well, we're going to start out with this string that happens to be XML, and then we're going to call it XML. It's so tough. He mentions Notepad++. Yeah, that's what I use to edit all my stuff. But thanks to Chrissy for that, and I need to play with this a little bit more, but I can think of a bunch of times in the past where I've needed to just replicate lists to make copies to play with them or do whatever, and this would have been a good tool to have.
I agree. Comes up all the time.
Yep. And so a note in there to blog the document stuff too. So Shane,
Mark's demanding.
B is all yours.
What did I put for B? Oh, yes. So a couple weeks ago, right, I got to go, we talked about my travels, and I went to the Business Application Summit,
Mm-hmm.
And I went out there, I presented some sessions, I helped with some things Dan Christian was doing there in the chat room. Got to meet a few of our famous viewers as well. That was very nice.
I met him first, and he probably likes me better.
I mean, clearly he does. I got to meet Mr. Donovan as well. So that was it was a nice treat. I was very happy. Anyway, I actually went to the keynote, and as you can attest, I've been to about 3 keynotes in my entire life, and I think I was speaking at 2 of them. So
I was going to say, I would guess that the number of keynotes you've been a spectator to was 0 before this summit. Yeah.
Yeah, but I got talked into going and doing or sitting through it. So I went and sat and listened, and it was pretty interesting, right? And not the actual content. That sounds terrible. But one of the things that I really liked about the keynote was it was the energy and the vibe of the room, right? I mean, the content was great. I learned some stuff. I got to see some stuff that was coming. But being in the room with 4,000 people that were there for a conference about PowerApps, Power BI, Flow, Dynamics, Excel, right? A bunch of people where about half the audience was also non-technical. Again, they were not IT folks. But just being in that room and looking around, man, there's 4,000 people in this room all here for this. It just brought me back to SharePoint 2007 days. And I don't know, the energy was it was just awesome. And I've never had that happen before at a keynote. So I wanted to kind of give them a shout out for, those of you that are like, yeah, this whole Power Apps thing, it's a phase or it's a fad, InfoPath will live forever. Power Apps, Power BI, the application, business application platform, I think is one of the names they use for it. It is coming. It's coming fast, and it was really neat to be part of.
Yeah, and I think, you and I have had some of these discussions, and I was having some discussions with a customer yesterday. I don't think anybody wants InfoPath to live because they love InfoPath, and I don't think anybody wants Power Apps to die because they don't like Power Apps. But Microsoft has struggled mightily to find a worthy successor to InfoPath. I mean, people have been craving something to replace InfoPath, and there have been a couple of failed attempts, and so people have gotten cynical. And I think that's probably why they're not too excited about Power Apps. But I think maybe this time Microsoft, third time's a charm. I think maybe Power Apps is the thing people have been wanting. So I'm not surprised to hear there's excitement.
Yeah, well, I think the other key here is, if you ask the Power Apps people, like, what are they, replacing InfoPath, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is that to you, right? It's probably like a 2. That is not, they are looking at such a bigger picture, right? It's these citizen developer driven apps and solutions. And so it's just a side effect for us SharePoint nerds. We're like, InfoPath, SharePoint, Power Apps, right? That's the mindset we get in. But from a larger scale, right, that conference had nothing to do with replacing InfoPath. So it's I bring my own baggage to the party. I fully admit that. So
yeah, and I mean that's the good picture for them to have. I think they're missing a part of their evangelist audience by not scratching that itch overtly. Because I think because there is such a crowd of people who want to do InfoPathy things, and if the Power Apps team said, "Hey, tell us what you like to," if they catered to them a little bit, it would energize that group that much more. Though it sounds like that's happening.
Yeah, and there's a white paper and a whole website dedicated to the transition. Good. I wrote the white paper, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, right.
Or it's terrible, but yeah, no, they get it. And I would tell you, I can't tell you something today that I can do in InfoPath that I can't do in Power Apps. I mean, I'm certain someone's going to find some small thing that I don't know about, but thus far I have not had anyone be like, my InfoPath form does this and Power Apps can't. I'm always like, nope, here's how you do it.
Yeah.
And here's how you do it better.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing. I was talking to another customer last week about the online Word and the online Excel and whether they were going to license that. And they're like, well, but it doesn't do everything the fat client does. I'm like, no, but it does 98% of the things that your people use, and it will be fine for most situations. And so I think, yeah, there might be some fringe thing that InfoPath does that Power Apps doesn't, but nobody's going to notice, or one out of 100 people are going to notice.
Yeah, in the InfoPath, to jump ahead a little bit, but right after the summer, I went and did that migration. And one of the biggest challenges that we're still kind of fighting through has been their transition of InfoPath forms from SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint 2017 or SharePoint 2016, whatever version of SharePoint that was.
2016, 2017, whatever it takes.
Yeah, potato, tomato, it's the Mac version. It's fine.
Yeah.
But, in the fix for all of their InfoPath forms, because we changed URLs along the way, and all we really did was added SSL. So we went from HTTP SharePoint to HTTPS SharePoint. You have to grab the XSN, change the XSN to a cab, open up the cab, pull all the files out, modify the URLs embedded in 2 XML files. Back to your earlier XML stinks.
Mm-hmm.
Save all of that. Use make cab to recreate a cab, and then rename that cab to an XSN. Then go back to SharePoint, upload the file, and then republish it. I mean, I guess I say all that because InfoPath's pain in the butt. But this is one of I think the biggest challenges of this true people want to get away from InfoPath is there is no, hey, I have all these InfoPath forms, and I just need a great, easy, click button way to take my 5,000 InfoPath forms that might be spread across, this entire corporation and press a button and have them all go to Power Apps or any other tool. So InfoPath, we're going to be stuck with it for a long time, I think, because to make InfoPath do anything other than be InfoPath is a lot of work.
Yeah, and as is often the case, the people that designed InfoPath did it a long time ago with specific goals in mind. And they are a small group of people. And then they released it on the world, and hundreds of thousands of people who weren't guided by those guardrails and had infinitely more free time did a whole bunch of things that the InfoPath team never expected people to do with it. And so there's years and years of that now, and trying to get out of that is going to be tough.
Yeah. Same thing happened with SharePoint Designer, right? All those things that got done that were never intended for, it's real. There's a lot of pain to transition off of those.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that the business app stuff was exciting for you. I'm glad that you finally got to meet Dan Christian. He gets to see all the things that I said about you are true, how bad you are and all that. So I'm glad he got to experience that for himself.
Yeah. No, Dan was great. He was super helpful. He held my hand, carried me around from point A to point B. It was very sweet.
That's great. So you've got a thing here about some PowerApps training.
Oh, look at this, man. You can tell that I did most of the notes, folks. Ha ha. So a month ago, literally a month ago, Microsoft released a new edX course. So if you're not familiar with it, it's edx.org, I believe. And so out on edX, there's all these different free training courses, right? So there's courses like you can take Harvard, classes and MIT stuff, and you can learn about this and that. And some of the classes are completely free. Some of the classes have like a free version and a paid version. It's just kind of an online learning platform. So Microsoft occasionally releases some of their content out there. And in the case of PowerApps, Flow, CDS, and model-driven apps, they released an all-up course for that is out there for free. So if you're like, man, I really want to get into this stuff, but I kind of want to soup to nuts, somebody to walk me through not only the Canvas apps, which is what we all think of as Power Apps, right, but how does Flow work with that? What is Flow? How does Flow work? An intro to Flow, an intro to CDS, the Common Data Service, and then the model-driven Power App story. Microsoft released a full course on that. So that's the good news. Nice free class. There is a $99 version of it if you need the certificate to say you completed the course successfully, and that's used for some of the partner programs and things like that. The downside of the course is it's about, I don't know how many hours. It's probably 15 hours of me talking.
So it estimates that the course is 6 weeks long and 4 to 8 hours per week.
Yeah, so that is a terrible estimate. That is not nearly accurate. I would say it would probably, let's see, how many hours I really think it would take you to get through the class? I bet you could do it 3 to 4 full days. I think could get you through the whole class, including all the hands-on labs and there's knowledge checks along the way, all of those fun type of things. Probably should have them fix that. So anyway, Microsoft went through a whole bunch of pain and suffering. I did to make this course. And so if you want to learn about any of those pieces, it's a great tool. One of the pieces I would really recommend, even if you're already comfortable with Power Apps and Flow, if you've started to wonder like what is a common data service and how does it start to fit into the story and these model-driven app shenanigan things, you can jump module to module. So you could just do the CDS and the model-driven module. And I think that would be a great primer. When I tried to learn model-driven apps based on the content that exists elsewhere, I spent about a month, almost full-time, trying to learn those because no one could really tell me the answers. So I kind of just had to, decompile it all. So I've done all that decompiling. I don't know. Great free course. Go take it.
Yep, I recommend it. Though you are kind of a slow learner, so that might have been why it was tough. But
clearly.
Go out there, give Shane some views, sign up for that. Looks interesting, very collegiate looking. I like it.
Yeah, it was fancy. I mean, I don't. Unlike my YouTube channel where I get some love when you view it, I don't get any love for you viewing that one. But I honestly think it's a good source of information, so that's why I shared that one.
Yeah, and I think the more clicks it gets, the more likely you are to get more of those gigs in the future.
Good point. Good point. I mean, and who doesn't want to? You get to see me, and what's funny. So, right, we talked about the video being really poorly done in today's episode, where I'm kind of like look super short.
Yep. In
that one. And I didn't know until the course went live. I didn't see it for the first time. The full-on Shane shots, the desk is really low because a lot of presenters are short. and they didn't really adjust anything. So I look like I'm like 8'12" in some of the shots because the desk is like around my knees almost.
Yeah, and that's funny because Dan mentioned that he when he met you in person, that he was surprised at how tall you are. So that's a funny thing. I've gotten that a couple of times too, and it's interesting. You know, obviously when people see you on video, they only see, you can't judge. But I've gotten that a couple of times myself when people have been amazed at how tall I am. And for the people that have mentioned it to me, they'd only seen me on videos like this, and it had something to do with the size of my chair. Like I just looked, I don't know. But for those of you that haven't met us in person, I'm a solid 6 foot tall. Shane's what, 6'3", something like that.
6'4".
There you
Yeah,
go.
if I stand up straight.
Yeah. If you don't slouch, keep
I
shoulders
know.
back. So yeah, we're not small guys necessarily. But yeah, always fun when people are like, you're so much taller. I'm like, no, I've really been this height for like 30 years. This is kind of how I
Yeah.
am. Yeah.
No, but and then this reminds you, how much like people that you only know through either like YouTube videos or podcast or Facebook, right? You just kind of mentally paint a picture of the rest of them based on, some snippets you've seen, some headshots here and there, and they almost never meet that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
And today's video, yeah, I mean, if you look at today's video, I look like I'm 6 inches taller than Shane. It's just because his camera's not being good.
Eric says classic Roadhouse.
Yeah, classic Roadhouse line. I thought you'd be bigger. What a great movie. If you haven't seen Roadhouse in the last 5 years, go out and find Roadhouse. I don't know if it's on Netflix or whatever. I've got the DVD. It doesn't matter. But what a great movie. So many great lines in Roadhouse. One of Patrick Swayze's finest works.
Well, and speaking of finest works, I understand someone stole some of yours.
They did, kind of. They may have, they may not have. I don't know. But it was funny. This played out on Twitter. And the best thing is it played out on Twitter without me knowing about it. And then at the end, somebody CC'd me on it. So when I clicked it, I saw the whole conversation. It was hysterical. So a guy, Florian Hanseman, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, very generous person, again, has a bunch of stuff up on GitHub. And he had a GitHub project, though it's really not a project, that has a single line of PowerShell that will retrieve stored passwords from Edge and IE. So he posted that out there, mostly to show how insecure things were, but that's not really the bent that I used for it. But he's like, hey, don't store your stuff here. This one line of PowerShell, you can get all the passwords your browsers are storing. It's all very bad. And somebody who I just realized now in the notes I forgot to credit said, hey, that piece of code, that piece of PowerShell looks very familiar, and linked them to my blog. So I have a blog post on how to retrieve passwords that Windows stores in the credential vault. You and I talked about this a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I don't think of this as a security issue necessarily for a couple of reasons. In order for this to work, you have to have access to the machine, physical access-y stuff, and you have to be an administrator. So I guess I feel like if I'm an administrator at a machine, I'm not surprised I can get passwords and things like that. Doesn't surprise me at all. But in that blog post, I mentioned that I got that code someplace else, and I can't remember where from, so it's really not my code. And I don't know that Florian stole it from me anyway. He may have stumbled across it or stole it from the same person I stole it from years ago. I have no idea. But it was funny because after he realized that, and after this person pointed it out and pointed in my blog, he went back into his GitHub post and gave me credit. Even though in my blog post, I very clearly say that it's not my code. But he didn't have to do that. It's not my code. I make that very clear. And he probably didn't steal it in the first place. But that was pretty cool of him. And I noticed he's got another article or another GitHub subscription or project on how to pull passwords from Chrome. So that's another handy thing. And this is, so I store all of my passwords in Chrome. I've got them in a password vault also, but it's very good when you're moving machines or if you realize that you don't have a password in your password vault. It's awesome that you can pull them out of Chrome or IE. And so that was, these are good tools to have. But yeah, I don't know that they show any security exploits.
Yeah, no, I am with you that if you're an administrator on the local machine, you can get anything you want, right? It's all there for the takings. Game's over at that point. So if you're worried about a bad person on the local machine exploiting stuff, and their administrator, well, you've already lost. So
yeah, but it's yeah. But yeah, and in the notes I've got guy stole my code, but I don't care. because I mean he did. It's good to have it out there. It's not mine in the first place, but I think he did a real stand up job, even though he probably didn't take it from my blog that he did that. So
Very
and again,
nice.
that all played out, and then at the end, he's the one that CC'd me, so I could chase it all up. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, Dan is posting in the chat room pictures of him standing beside us so we can compare our heights. It's a pretty interesting way for us to kind of gauge how tall we are, I guess. I mean, not knowing how tall Dan is, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and the funny thing is the one that he's got of me is from the MVP Summit. And two funny things, there's a mirror behind us, so not only do you get to see a picture of our fronts, you get to see a picture of our backs for full, and then you can see Andy Honeycutt in the background is the guy that took the picture.
Yep.
So that's good stuff.
Yeah. I did a picture with someone at Summit. This gentleman was more along the lines of he was probably a solid 5 foot 4'11" type, and so I was like literally I can't do this to you, right? I had to just kind of squat, burn, show off my sweet thighs, get a little burn, and I get down there to make the picture work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's pictures, funny.
Good stuff. So you've got E. Tell us about E.
More PowerApps news. Everybody tuned in, right? So PowerApps 911 is continuing to grow. And so we just hired a full-time person, started yesterday, which I'm realizing that someone in the chat room is hearing about this because I haven't talked to him to tell him about this. Yeah. But yeah, so we hired another FTE on Monday, and it's, it's a SharePoint 911 story again, I hope. And even better is it's someone that used to work with us at SharePoint 911, who back then was a beloved intern.
Yes, beloved intern.
He's grown up. He's become mostly a functional adult. So he's got a real job this time. He's not the intern. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good story. I think the PowerApps thing, I think it's going to hit. I don't know if we're in a situation now where it can grow the way that SharePoint 911 did. I mean, I think the landscape is a little different, but certainly you're smart to start with that same script and work that same direction.
Yeah. It's interesting. I would tell you the demand is higher right now than it was for the early days of SharePoint 911. But yeah, it'll be an interesting journey. I mean, I keep wanting to just say it's one for one, the SharePoint journey. And you are probably completely right that it will not be a one for one journey, but it's going to be a fun little adventure.
Yeah. All right.
And then we got an article from you about not upgrading a bad word that I'm not going to say.
Yeah, don't upgrade crap. So a month or so ago, I kind of came on at Petri.com and have been, obligated to write them articles once a week. And so that has forced me to think about some topics that I don't normally think about. And one of them, when I started this journey 6 or 7 weeks ago, it was before the SharePoint 2019 preview came out. And so they said, hey, we can't talk about SharePoint 2019 yet, but what can we talk about for people who want to talk about getting ready for that? And so I published an article about that, things that you can do to prepare for your upgrade. And then each week after that, I've delved into each of those topics a little deeper. And one of my suggestions for anybody that migrates or upgrades is don't upgrade crap. And so that is the name of this article. And it's all about migrations and upgrades being a good inflection point for what you're using and what you want to continue to use. And if you've got crap, don't upgrade it. Don't let the inertia, the momentum of that being in your current farm, just let it go through and go into your new farm. So, and a couple of things about this. So the very obvious thing is crap content, stuff you don't use anymore, stuff you tried and that you didn't like, but also crap functionality. And we're getting less of this because of Office 365, but Shane had some, I think maybe we'll talk about it in the next one, some third-party things that cause some problems, some, farm solutions. If you don't use them or you don't need them or the new version of SharePoint does a good enough job, don't upgrade that crap either. Find a way out. And it will make your current upgrade easier. It will make your next upgrade easier. So that was this week's advice in Petri. Don't upgrade crap.
Yeah, I mean, how long have we been saying that on stage, right? Just, let's do some spring cleaning, folks, before we mosey on up the road.
A decade. Yeah, and Eric Van Roy in the chat room, he did send me an email a couple days ago about an upgrade that he's doing and some weird stuff that he's got going on. And he was in Eric's defense, there was a way to fix his problem that was not a good way, and he knew it was not a good way, and he didn't want to do it that way. So he kind of came to me a little bit, not in desperation, but like, hey, I'm on the precipice of doing a bad thing, and I know you want to prove. Is there any less bad way I can do this? And I was on site with a customer at the time, so I wasn't able to respond to him as quickly as I wanted to. But just the between the time it took me to get back to him and him explaining the problem to me, he was able to find a much better solution. So he didn't have to do the bad thing, the bad touch that he was trying to do.
I'm guessing it was editing a SQL database in some capacity.
I'm not going to throw Eric under any buses. I will say that editing SQL databases directly is a horrible idea. And yes, that would be a bad thing to do, but I'm not going to confirm or deny.
Now, Eric, I can tell you the migration that I just finished up, they've got some remnants hanging out there that I'm pretty close to saying, let's go edit some SQL tables myself. So yeah, but I won't tell Todd. I don't want to be judged.
No, you're being judged. So I will talk a little bit about Eric's problem in very vague details. Doing a migration and has a content database that has a site collection that is an orphan of some variety. And that orphan, not only is it an orphan, and that causes problems, but the SharePoint upgrade process is just not able to upgrade it. And he's not able to delete it the way that we do with most things. And so there's a way in SQL that he could make the problem go away. And so my response to him was, before I would do that, number one, on the production side, pull all of the valid site collections out of that content database, put them in a new content database, and then let that content database not be upgraded with the bad site collection and just leave it behind. That's one solution. Another solution is he showed me in SQL where the site collection doesn't have a URL, but it does have a GUID, and the remove SP site commandlet will let you give URL or GUID. So that would be something that I would try to see if you could delete it that way. STS-ADM also has the delete configuration object, which will go through and just delete any damn thing you can give a GUID to. So I would try that as well. So there's a couple of, so I kind of gave him some ideas on what to do. I'm not saying that he was threatening to edit SQL. I'm in no way, but that was kind of the things. But again, him walking me through the process and trying to do a very good job of showing me all of the things and all the steps he'd taken kind of jiggled the solution free for him. So it was good.
Nice. Yeah, the one we have is it's a site collection in a content database that upgraded, right? It's all working, it's all fine, it's all functional.
Yes.
But it leaves the farm in this permanent state of needs upgrade because this database thinks it still needs upgraded, and it can't upgrade like one of the default site content types. And so I think is going on, I mean, we have not dug all the way in on it, but I think what is going on is that they somewhere along the way created a custom content type that is conflicting with the default content type. And, we went from 2010 to 2016, and I don't know. I have not come up with in the very short amount of time I've looked at it, a way that I'm going to make this site collection be happy.
Yeah, that one's way more complicated than the one that Eric and I had.
Yeah.
That's bad news right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you had, so is that the migration woes?
Yeah, that's enough of that. We've hit that a couple different ways already.
All right. So something that I've been wanting to hear about for like a month now, and we're, 30 some minutes into the podcast, so you don't have the full open floor.
Darn it.
But tell us about your Ring doorbell.
Yeah. So after, much confusion and decisions and thinking, I ended up going with the Ring Doorbell 2.
Okay.
Right. And so if you're not familiar with the Ring Doorbell, I can't imagine anyone's not, but the quick version is that it is a video doorbell. So it's got a camera, it's got a ring button, right? Person rings it. It makes a little chime that we have plugged in, ring in the house. But it also then messages our phones and says, hey, there is someone at your door. You can answer the phone from your, or answer the door from your phone and talk to the people. You can see them, hear them. They can hear you. They can't see you. And it's just a nice little, way to, I guess, you look at a couple different ways, right? It's either a convenience factor because now I don't have to get up and leave my comfy chair to go talk to the people at the front door and say, go away. Or, it's a kind of a security factor as well, right? If people are stealing packages off your front porch or vandalizing your house or that type of stuff, you've now got a nice little forward-facing video contraption.
Yeah. So a couple things about, so tell us what the installation was like. One of the things that's kept me from getting one of these is the last two houses I've lived in have had a brick facade where the doorbell is, and I'm not sure how easily I can get wires in there or mounts or all that kind of stuff. So tell us what that was like.
Okay, so I went with the doorbell, the Ring Doorbell 2.
Okay.
So there's a 1 and a 2. The 2 has runs off batteries.
Okay.
And so it can also supplement the batteries with the electricity from an existing doorbell. So if you put it right in place where your old one was, those two little skinny wires, they provide a little bit of voltage that helps the doorbell stay alive. But mine just runs 100% on battery. So that was nice because, like you, I wanted to put it somewhere different than where the existing doorbell was. So to mount it, there's, it's 4 screws, 2 screws. Mine has 2 screws. So there's just 2 screws. In my case, I was able to find some of the door trim. So I was able to put it into the door trim. So I did not have to drill through the actual brick facade that was right beside it. I did the aluminum door piece.
Gotcha.
But one of the things I did though, so when you buy it, it comes with just a flush mount. I bought a wedge on Amazon for like, I don't know, $19, $25, I don't know, $12, something like that lets me set the angle. So instead of having mine face completely straight out my front door, I actually turned it about 30 degrees so it looks down the walkway.
Oh.
Because one of the things that is also I did not mention was it has a motion detector built in. So 10 times out of 10, I get an alert that there's motion at my front door before the person even gets a chance to ring it.
Gotcha.
And so that has, we've had some false positives. I'm not going to lie. There's been maybe 5 or 6 false positives. We haven't really figured out what they are. But for the most part, because it's looking, so it can see all the way down my road, right? It can see 1/10 of a mile. But the motion detectors probably only works 20 to 30 feet. So it's only, checking motion at that particular distance.
Right.
And that's one of the key differences between the Doorbell 2 and there's a Doorbell Pro or something like that.
Yes.
The Pro apparently has a little bit more advanced motion detection software, hardware than mine does. But I've been super happy with mine, so I'm not regretting the Doorbell 2.
Yeah. And it says, so you are battery only, but you can hook it up to the doorbell
Wiring, yes.
the 12 volts that comes from your doorbell. So it says it works with Alexa also. Are you using it for that?
I have not connected it to Alexa or any of the smart systems. I bought it kind of like when I was on my 20 days of travel or whatever. So I literally just kind of got it shoved out there, and it was working. It was doing what I wanted to do. So I just moved right on.
Gotcha.
But yeah, coming back to because I think if you have like the Alexa, the one that does the images and stuff, I think you can even like view it and all that from right there.
The Echo Show.
There you go.
And I do have one of those.
And part of my thought process, so the other major competitor in the space was the Nest. So if you have a Nest thermostat and you're kind of thinking you want to be a Nest ecosystem, you could go that route. The problem with the Nest, though, is they're all hardwires. Nest does not introduce batteries at all.
Gotcha.
But one of the upsides of the Nest stuff, as I understand it, I don't have one, is that it can do facial recognition.
Wow.
So you can teach it to be like, hey, my cleaning lady, I don't need to be buzzed about her because, she's a safe person.
Yeah.
But one of our plans, though, with this, because with our house, we've got all these windows, these sides, but where the driveway and the garage is, the garage kind of blocks the whole view. So I can't really see anything going on in my driveway or around my garages out a window or anything. I literally go outside.
Right.
So the thought is I want to put one of the Nest cameras to replace one of the floodlights for the garage. So then that way I'll point it looking straight down my driveway. It'll see the front of the garage. And I think that'll, for too long, Big Brother will be completely in here. I'll have like 37 security cameras and, government pinchers patrolling the perimeter. But
yeah,
I see more cameras in my very short-term future.
Yeah. So you may have talked me into buying the Ring. I've got a similar deal because of the way my house is set up. I can't. My office is in the basement, whatever. I got a couple of cheap $35 D-Link cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got one sitting in my garage pointing out so I can see if the garage door's open at night, things like that. So the price point on those was pretty good. D-Link's web interface and all that is not great. And I bought these things 2 or 3 years ago, so I'm sure it's gotten better. But yeah, with the cheapness and the ubiquity of these kind of cameras, there's just a lot of like a little annoying things we don't have to put up with anymore. Like, I can't see what's going on in my driveway. For $40, I can fix this. And
Yeah. Yeah, and if cameras doorbell wasn't really your thing, right? Because the Ring, I can click on right now, I can see what's going on, I can motion alerts, I can, there's a whole bunch of cool, fun features. Another one, sorry, I want to add one more feature that I thought was pretty neat, is they have this like neighborhood watch thing, right? So when you register your Nest, you tell it what your address is, where it's located, and so then you can join your local neighborhood group that I think gives you like everyone within 10 or 20 miles of your house. Damn. And so you don't get their addresses or anything, but people can post there kind of the same way they do in Facebook. And so, for example, when solicitors come through, somebody will just post a picture like, hey, these two guys are selling, trash cans, right? Yeah. So then everyone in the neighborhood can see that through the Ring and, see the video and be like, all right, well, if people show up at my house, I'll just tell them, we don't have trash. Yeah. So I thought that was a neat kind of neighborly, very Facebook-esque, but just about, sharing doorbell activity.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Oh, I'm glad. I've wanted one of these things for a couple of years because they've been out for a long time, probably 5 years. So I'm glad you pulled the trigger first so I can talk myself into it.
And I will tell you that the best deal is at Costco if you have a Costco membership, and you can do it on Costco online. But it comes with a doorbell, I told you, like when you press my button, it also rings a physical device in my house. So that's like a $40 device. And it comes with like a year subscription service to their online storage and stuff. So, so if you want to do it and you have an access or a way or a friend or some way to buy from Costco, I think Costco is probably the best price option I found.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on Amazon, and it's $200 on Amazon without all of that stuff.
Yeah, so mine was like $189 with all that stuff.
Gotcha. And so I just thought of another thing. Again, I am so far away from the front door in the basement that if somebody rings the doorbell, I don't hear it. And the other thing that I found is either because of some weirdness or the fact that they have kids, a lot of people are afraid to ring the doorbell. And so they knock, and I really can't hear that. So this would fix all of that because the motion detection would catch it, and then I could have one of these chimes sitting someplace else.
Yep. And both you and Jill can have the app on your phone at the same time, so then you both have access to the front door.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
Yeah. Highly recommend it. There you go.
All right. So not to break the whole process of Shane talking about himself, let's look at the next one.
Man, we're running out of time, but I like it.
You're going to have to make this one short.
My best evil laugh there. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that listens here or helped along the way, but I crossed 1 million YouTube views on this a couple days ago. So you guys probably remember the days of me begging you to click the very first time. All that paid off. You guys really helped. You got me where I needed to be. And so 1 million times have I been viewed on Facebook, which is just absurd when you start looking at like all the numbers of how many minutes people spend watching, listening to me, ramble about how great Chewy is. It's very interesting. So thank you, everybody.
Absurd is not disgusting. I'm losing my faith in humanity, all of that. But congratulations, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I know that it pains you, so I appreciate that. Yeah, someone asking about subscribers. So I think subscribers, I'm in like 17,500 or something like that.
Yeah, as I've mentioned, much to my lament, and I'm going to reformat this machine at some point, and this is part of it. Whenever I start to type YouTube in Chrome, it always goes to that guy's page. It won't just go to YouTube. It always goes to his. So a bunch of his clicks and stuff are, but I always see the subscribers because it goes there, and I'm too lazy to take the end out. So
I'm glad it helps you out there. So
sickens me every time.
We'll save all the other video promotions for another day. there's I got a bunch of those because we're running out of time. I appreciate that.
We are. All right. So speaking of Dan Christian a bunch, on Saturday, they're doing SharePoint Saturday Charlotte. So he will be doing that. October 20th, SharePoint Saturday New England in Burlington, New England. You can go out there and talk to those folks. And then here in a couple of weeks, you and I are going to be at SP TechCon in Boston.
Yeah, we both finally booked all of our travels, so hey, I think it's official now.
Yep, I'm committed. Yeah, I'm going. So that is, you can go to sptechcon.com, sign up for that. It's August 26th through 29th. We're doing all of our favorite hits. Shane and I are doing a PowerApps thing on Sunday. We're doing a couple of PowerShell things. I'm doing an Azure Active Directory thing. I forget all the stuff. But we're going to be out there. Come find us, for goodness sakes. If you listen to the podcast or been to any of our sessions before, you know that we're friendly folks. Come find us, give us hugs, tell us how much you love me and don't like Shane. We get it all the time.
Yeah, well, and this is just part of my evil plan, right? Todd's been, resistant on this whole Power Apps thing, so I'm just going to drag him in and make him help me teach for 8 hours. I know he'll be prepared for that, and he'll have to listen to me talk about it. So I'm really excited for SP TechCon because you have to learn Power Apps.
Well, and let's be clear, and I don't want to come off sounding like a hater, at least not for Power Apps. For you, absolutely. Yeah, I hate you. I have only been impressed with Power Apps and what it can do. I've just not made the time to learn it. Now, I don't think it's not that it's not worthy of my time. It's just I haven't. So yes, this will force me to spend some time on it. So that's
and I didn't mean to sound like you think it's a hater. I'm with you. There's about 17 things I would like to sit down and learn for much deeper. I saw some awesome Teams and Planner stuff at one of my customers this week, and I'm like, that's spectacular. I don't have time to learn it, so I still haven't used Teams. Don't tell anybody.
Yep, I got to work out a team solution for a customer this afternoon. So.
Tell me how it works.
Yeah, we'll see. So thanks, everybody. The next episode will be 400. I'm out of town next week. I'm going to be traveling on vacation, so I'm not sure when we're going to do 400, but that will be the next one. In the meantime, if you want to contact me, I am Todd at toddclint.com or at toddclint on Twitter. Shane
at PowerApps911.com or Shane Youngcloud on the YouTubes.
There you go. So everybody, we will see you in 2 weeks, or Shane will see you in a week, or who knows. But we'll be out there somewhere. See ya.
Toodles.